everyone, this is Eric Vasquez here, and today's tip I want to show you guys a good and efficient way that you can do a silhouette in Photoshop. It's quite an unorthodox method that comes in handy anytime you're doing some type of photo-generated artwork. And in particular, I'm going to show you guys how you can get rid of these wispy flyaway hairs and things like that. So, the first thing I usually like to do when I open up my image is make a copy of it using Command J on your keyboard. Then I'll turn off the visibility of my background layer. From here, go to the image menu and select Calculations. Now you'll notice this turns your image to black and white, and initially it has some pretty good contrast. Well, that's because you have control over the blending modes as well. So what that means is you can change this to screen, lighten, any of these really, and the goal here is to get as much contrast as possible. So we want to get hard black edges, and then we want our model here to be completely white. So go ahead and hit OK, go to the Channels tab, and you'll see that you have a new alpha channel here, alpha channel 2. I don't know why we have 1, but that seems to be a mistake, so I'm just going to focus on 2 for now. So what you want to do after this is go to Image Adjustments, Levels, or you can simply hit Command L on your keyboard. This will bring up the Levels menu. From here, click and drag the gray slider inwards to boost the whites and the highlights in the image. When you're happy with it, go ahead and click OK, and just remember the goal being to get a completely black background, and everything in here we want to be solid white. Now, we're still working on our Alpha 2 channel. What I'm going to do from here is hit O on the keyboard, which is my dodge and burn tool. I'm going to start brushing, and notice that the exposure, or the hardness of the brush, is set to 100. So I'm going to start brushing this in, and you can always do another levels adjustment if you need to, but using this technique is quite effective. So I'm going to do this for a little bit. You can also toggle back and forth between your brush tool and just paint in white, using full opacity. And you can also get in pretty close with those edges and get a hard brush as opposed to a soft brush to really clean these up. And a good way to toggle back and forth between the hardness of your brush is to press the Shift key and the left bracket, and that'll make your brush softer. Or conversely, you can press the Shift key with the right bracket to make the brush harder. So you can see the difference here. That's a hard brush, and then the soft brush is more like an airbrush. Alright, so we're going to get our hard brush, go in here, and just paint in white manually. Sometimes this can be faster than using the colors, the dodge and burn tool, rather, excuse me. So continue to paint that in, and try to get as good as you can. Really go in on the edges, and continue to paint. And I'll be back with you guys in a couple of seconds when this is done. So for areas that are a little bit softer, or maybe even out of focus, it's a good idea to use a soft brush when painting in the edges. And again, you can do that just by holding down the Shift key and using the left and right brackets on your keyboard. Now undo that. You can always go back if you mess up, or if you get a little bit of the background in there, you can just paint over it with white. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish that up. Get down here, and then switch back over to the dodge tool, or the brush, whichever happens to be faster in your situation here. In this case it is the brush, but sometimes that dodge burn tool really comes in handy. I think we're going to use it a little bit up here. And the dodge and burn tool works in a very similar way to your brush in that you can change the hardness of it by using the same shortcut that we've been using all along. And then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and press O on the keyboard to toggle back and forth between the dodge and burn tool. Here I'm using the burn tool on the background to boost the contrast of the background and go after that high contrast image that we're trying to get. Right? And you can see that as you use the burn tool along the hair, it really retains a lot of the wispy hair and the flyaways and things like that are ultimately going to make your silhouette look more believable. And that's what we're after in the long run. Whoops. Sorry about that. There we go. Same thing on this side. Now, this side actually doesn't have quite as much contrast, especially down here. So we can try and use our dodge and burn tool, but you're going to see it's not extremely effective. So this is an instance where you may want to toggle back and forth between the dodge and burn and your brush tool. Right? So try to go through this pretty quickly for you guys, just to show you, where you end up. And I like to usually rotate between different methods of silhouetting an image depending on the scenario. You have to always kind of assess an image because it's going to vary every time. It'll be a little bit different. So knowing different methods and techniques is always good to have in the old designer's utility belt. So let's see. There you go. Switch over to black. Grab the rest of the background here. The only time you really need the dodge and burn tool is to get those edges. For these larger areas, it may just be faster to use a black brush. So do what you need to do. Go in there. Don't be afraid to roll your sleeves up and do some painting. This isn't the messy kind of painting where you're going to have to clean up afterwards. So go in there, roll your sleeves up, get that silhouette going. Alright, there you go. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to get that edge a little bit more and go over the image once, just checking using the space bar to get the hand tool and then kind of dragging around the image to make sure that you get everything. Okay, looks pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and press the command key and then click on the Alpha 2 channel. And when you do that, you'll see it activates the selection. It actually looks like we missed a little bit here. So I'm just going to go back over that, do it again, zoom out, see how the rest of the image looks. I think we got one more spot in here. Good. So now it looks like a pretty good selection we've got going. Switch back over to your Layers tab right here. Click on the image, and then you can apply a layer mask, and there you go. Now, what I noticed here is actually some of this image is still transparent, so you can tell here a little bit of the background is showing through on the neck area and down here over her hair. So we're just going to go back in with the white brush, and fill that in to make sure we have a good solid selection. Alright, and from here you're good. You have your silhouette and you have some good contrast in it, and you got most of these hairs. You see, it does a pretty good job when you're in a hurry, but you can always go in and add more detail or even manually paint in some tiny strands of hair by using the brush tool. So you can go in, make a new layer, use the Alt-Option key to toggle between the eyedropper and your brush, and then just paint in some more hairs if you want. This is a good way to make it look even more believable. But you guys get the idea. It's a very useful technique. So I'd like to see how you guys apply it in your own work, and I hope that you found something useful from this video. See you next time.